It's really about representation. So when Buddhism went into Tibet, then Thangka painting really grew. Thangka painting is a Tibetan tradition. So if you look at the Indian paintings, they're completely different, you know, like pre-Tibetan Buddhism, you know, and you could say now, these are not Thangka paintings. This contemporary tool, an airbrush, is like a perfect means for creating a faux Thangka and a faux Italian Renaissance art, and then kind of combining them. And it's just this, it's a contemporary idea. And more importantly than the style, that actually depicting specific scenes that are part of an unbroken lineage that goes back thousands of years. In this scene, Jetsun Kappa has come to this rock bed that's been specially prepared for him to go into meditation on. And he enters into a meditation. In the sky, Yamantaka appears, surrounded by flames that could engulf the entire world. Then Yamantaka begins to recede into the distance. And as he does, Jetsun Kappa goes into deep meditation, sees Manjushri appear in the sky. A sword forms at Manjushri's heart. Off of the sword, streams of nectar begin to form, and they go down, and this nectar, like light, white nectar, begins to flow down the sword into a mass of people receiving the blessing. And really, the highest thing that comes to mind as I'm making the paintings is that potentially this is going to benefit Dharma, and that what is happening in that moment is completely and utterly out of my control. If you look at Renaissance art, Italian Renaissance artwork, devotional artwork, you know, it's a really humanist take on a lot of these religious scenes, you know? And then the lighting, the rendering, the foreshortening, the perspective, the colors, it was just a different system, you know? So, and then the Thangka paintings, there's a lot of rainbow light, and the line quality is extremely important. Rendering of three-dimensional objects is less important, it's more graphic. There was never a proper tradition of translation of Thangkas. So there was never enough knowledge of Thangka painting to really thoughtfully integrate it or thoughtfully use it, you know, in a Western practice. But now there's like proper explanation of all the symbols, you know, of all the grounds, of all the paths. This is like, it's just a choice opportunity. It's a choice moment. This painting is the story of an extremely holy blessing that Jetsun Kappa's mother receives to have Jetsun Kappa be her child. And it all happens in this dream. So she's lying there sleeping, and she dreams that she's in a long line of thousands of Tibetan women in a beautiful, lush field of verdant grass and filled with flowers. And from the west appears a divine youth. From the east appears a divine maiden. And they come together at the line of women. And one by one, the youth asks the maiden, is this the right one? And when they come up to Jetsun Kappa's mother, she says, this is the one. And they take her aside and they sing her the blessing that was sung to the Buddha when he was born. And they do this traditional washing of her body. And she wakes up from the dream completely blessed. We as Westerners can verify that certain paintings are painted correctly because we can look in the mirror and see the proportions of ourselves and see the drapery on our bodies and say, okay, that painting is a true depiction. In terms of the Buddhist Thangkas, then those are also true depictions of really specific ideas. So to be able to paint those, you have to be really well versed, or at least be well informed as to the meaning of what's included in those images. Well, this painting is in the biography, but it isn't included in the set of Thangka paintings. He might interact with Vajrayogini, the deity, you know, but never with an actual woman. There's very few women in the actual Thangkas. Tsongkhapa has been staying in his retreat residence, composing a text called "The Cow That Gives Whatever You Wish." And as he's been composing this text, a woman in a red dress and a red tangsha hat folded up on one side has been visiting him. And it's Vajrayogini in the form of this young woman. And just as he's finishing the text, she enters his residence, and beginning with her left hand, she begins to transform into Vajrayogini herself. And in that moment, Tsongkhapa is surprised, and he reaches out his hand, and his bamboo pen just is dropping out of his hand. So it's this, I really wanted to represent this kind of special moment where the entire reality of the scene is kind of shifting. What you could call an ordinary mode of existence in terms of two human beings into complete and total enlightenment, into fully realized beings. And all it is a shift of perception. That's the remarkable opportunity, that when he saw another human being, he saw them with unlimited compassion. And he saw that they weren't just a regular schmuck human being, but that they had this side, that there was something about them, that he could receive the highest possible teaching in any of those moments. And I think all of these scenes, but this one in particular, is really communicating that, you know, and that is who Tsongkhapa was. So in our tradition, the relationship between a teacher and a student is the most profound spiritual opportunity that you have in life. And this painting depicts the result of treating that relationship perfectly. So I begin the process by taking photos of some Tibetan Buddhist monks in the lineage of the Dalai Lamas, the Gelugpa lineage, which Tsongkhapa founded. So I start with the images and I draw them up onto the canvas, and then do a light sketch of the deities. And then I fully painted the two monks with the airbrush. And when I finish that painting, then I mask it off. I cover it with the material, and then I go into the entire background, and I begin the underpainting of the deities. Then I come in with the gold and do the outlining, and then more and more details in the very foregrounds. And that's kind of going to be the culmination of this interaction. See here, Tsongkhapa is greeting Khenchen Chakna Dorje, his teacher, at a Draogun monastery. And in the moment that he comes to greet him, he doesn't see Khenchen Chakna Dorje, he sees the Lord of Secrets. And Tsongkhapa doesn't just see a human being, Khenchen Chakna Dorje, the person. He sees a fully enlightened being that's trying to pull him towards his own enlightenment. So this painting is really the result of their spiritual practice, of maintaining this higher view. My artwork before this was like, it didn't matter. You know, there was no restriction. You know, so if I wanted to reference Tibetan Buddhist art, it didn't matter. I didn't have to do the proportions perfectly. You know, it wasn't part of my mind that was like really a necessity. Now it's like certain things in these paintings have to be accurate, period, you know? And if there's an edge that's fuzzy and it should be sharp, you know, then I have to find a way to make it sharp. I can't just airbrush the entire thing. It's a special opportunity. I think the best possible result is that we get closer to representing the meaning, what the traditions that have come to us, and then what we are going to do, you know, in our own lives, kind of make the practice true for us, and then also to make it true in terms of inspiring an entire community of people who are all of a similar cultural, viewpoint that we can all agree on.